Hello everyone. Today we're going to go over using InDesign for layouts that require facing pages. And just a reminder, facing pages are documents that have a spine, such as a textbook or a magazine or any sort of publication, where there is a left and right page and folds in the middle at the spine. When you have InDesign open for a new document, I'm just going to use a standard 8.5 by 11. Again, remember that documents can be custom sized for particular uses or needs. So here, this is the checkbox right here for facing pages. You turn it off. This is off, and then this is on. I'm going to choose 10 pages for today's example so you can get an idea what it looks like as a whole. I've also turned on the handy little feature that shows my keyboard inputs. This is very helpful if you want to use keyboard commands or keyboard shortcuts in order to make your work a little bit more efficient. And we're going to start on page 1, so this will give you an idea of what a layout would look like for a publication or book. Anytime you start a book or a publication, the cover, which technically would be page 1, or if you open the book from the cover, that first page that you see is only a single page on the right side of the document, and that would be considered page 1 as well. And then I'm going to choose columns. Columns is the most efficient way to organize all your information on a page. I want to start off with a 4 column, and then I want to increase it later. And again, the column, the gutter width is determined at this point. Again, this is something that can be changed later, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. My margin is going to be at 1/2 inch, and then again the standard bleed is 0.125 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch outside the actual document. I'm going to hit create, and then now if we look at the page panel, you see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 all the way to page 10, which is usually, if you were to look at the last page of the book right before you see where you see the cover and the last page, that would be page 10, or the even number page. So in practical purpose, when you look at a page, the even number is on the left side and the odd number is on the right side. I'm going, in this case, since I want to be working on a page spread, I'm going to ignore page 1 right now. That will come in handy later, and I'm going to go over here to page 2. And then once you click on page 2, you can see that there is the left and right page. I want to tuck my page panel back in there. Left and right page. There is the center mark right here. This is where the gutter is, and then the margins, which is the 1/2 inch on the sides of each page. So in theory, or in practice, you would actually have a 1 inch margin right here between the 2 columns, and that is separated by, again, the page itself. And so you have a 1/2 inch on one side, 1/2 inch on the other, and that would equal 1 inch completely. And this is very helpful when you have a thick publication. It helps with especially what's called when you have to bend it or open the publication, then it's kind of hard to see inside the gutter, so you have that little extra 1/2 inch on both sides to actually accommodate any sort of design that kind of encroaches the gutter. And then you have the columns in between each right here, or the gutters, and then the columns are the widest parts, and the narrow parts are the gutters. Let's see here. Now, when using this layout process, again, I want to put up a text box here and drop a text box, and again I want to put text box along the column, and I'll put another one over here. I'll duplicate it, and this is a handy way of duplicating multiple things by using your keyboard commands. I never had to do a cut and paste. I just basically grab and then hit the Alt and command key in order to left click and drag, and I can drag another text box over here. So now I have 4 text boxes. I want to move these text boxes down to the bottom here, and I'm just going to do a rough layout. The dynamic thing about doing a layout with multiple columns in a page spread is that you can actually effectively use the page as one entire page, because we all see it or perceive two pages to be one because they're sitting right next to each other, and then there's an intentional design or layout on those two pages. So I want to pick a frame box, and I'm going to actually just drag this over here, and again, this is a frame box that's going to be across the entire both pages, and there's the middle right there, intersects right there at the gutter, and this would be a full double page spread of an image. I want to just kind of move to a different page here to kind of show you something else. Say for instance I want to customize this a little bit more, because if I have two text boxes here, I can make the text boxes to the width of the column or each sequence column in order to do text that's 2 column wide text box, or if I want to do something fancier over here, I want to do a 3 column wide text box. And let's just put some lorem ipsum in here real quick, or some filler text. And then there's a quick hand of filler text right here as a placeholder. I can kind of just get an idea what it looks like. Fill placeholder text, and then I want to do this one over here. It's a 1 column. Whoops, I need to move that. And actually, you know what I want to do is I want to actually just move this text box down here, so I can kind of give you a variety of ways to look at this. Just fill it up with a text box. So I want to put this one here, and I want to just kind of rearrange it a little bit, and I'll put this one over here. So when we're talking about columns, and again the use of columns, it's a handy way of kind of organizing your information so where it looks nice and neat when you actually turn off all the grid lines. Alright, so now we have design on the columns. That means we have the text box right here. It is a 1 column wide text box, or I can group 2 columns and call it a 2 column wide, or I can group 3 columns and call it a 3 column wide text placement. If I want to do something extra fancy, I want to duplicate this one, and I want to go to another page, on page 4 or page 7 that is. I can do what's called a paste in place. So if you cut something from one page, you can come to a different page and do what's called paste in place. It will actually place the box or object into the same location coordinates as the previous location. And then there it is. And then if I want a 4 column wide text, I would do this, and this goes to the 4th column. And so a general rule of thumb is that everything we see in Microsoft Word or Google Docs is going to be always a wide body text, and this would emulate that. And the choice of a designer is to actually break away from that, because you can make reading more efficient by using narrow columns. So hence why newspapers are always have the column width is very narrow. Magazines tend to be a little bit wider because you have a little bit more wider surface or area to play with a little bit, but then you also have more of a feature on an article, and so there's different philosophies about this. But the idea is to kind of break away from the single column and move into a 1, 2, or 3 column or multi-column use of information. Now, I wanted to go over here back to page 7 real quick, because actually I want to change the columns for this. Again, if you want to highlight something or select a page, you can just simply select a page panel and highlight it with the blue. Or if you want to do 2 pages, and I want to do both of these, hold the Shift key and then select the other page you want to impact. I want to go up to Layout, Margins and Columns, and I'm going to change this one to 9 columns. Let me make it 7. I'll make it 7 today. Now I have 7 columns for each page, and this is again another way to kind of organize this, the information. I want to duplicate this one by bringing it over here for a second, and I'm going to make this one 3 columns wide, and then I want to bring this one over here and make it 4 columns wide. Now, with this process of using odd number columns on a page, you're guaranteed never to have equal columns on, between the left or right side of the page. Okay, as opposed to if we go back up here to this one, and I were to pull this one out to the 2 column wides, when you use even number columns, you're always going to have a layout that is perfectly balanced. And I tend to like things that are a little bit imbalanced because it kind of helps you break up hierarchy and emphasis between certain types of information. So now I have 2 columns. So this is the easiest way to kind of change columns on the fly. And I can change it from page to page if I wanted to. If I want to change it to 5 columns, I can, or up to 9 columns. And ultimately, you want to kind of consider like each page or each spread, as we call it in the layout world, that you kind of treat each page or each spread as one page. So you kind of be able to again work on the flow of things. And then speaking of flow, always remember that if you want to make sure that your text box is flowing from one to the other, you want to be able just to be able to grab that and then link it to the next box, and then I'll link this one to the other box over here. And again, this is an efficient way to make sure that the text is flowing from one page to the other, because if I were to come and hit some returns in here, you can see it pushes down the text to the next 3rd box over here on the next page. So this is a very efficient way of keeping up with all your information, so you don't lose anything when you're typing. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and thanks.